Your brain is broken. Not metaphorically, not as an insult. Literally, biologically, structurally broken for the world you're trying to survive in. And the worst part, you were born this way. Every single one of you watching this was handed a piece of hardware that was designed for a world that no longer exists, and then released into a financial system specifically engineered to exploit that mismatch. Building generational wealth has nothing to do with working 80 hours a week, nothing to do with hustle, grind, motivation, or any of the other words people put on gym posters. It has everything to do with one simple thing: not being the stupid money that the top 1% feeds on. Because right now, somewhere in a quiet office, someone is waiting for you to panic. They are patient, they are capitalized, and they have done this before, many times, with people smarter than you. Let me explain exactly how you keep ending up on the menu. This isn't a motivational speech. It's a surgical dissection of your financial failures. Look at your portfolio. If it's red, you're not unlucky. You're just human. And being human is a fatal flaw in the machine of capital. 200,000 years ago, your ancestors lived in small groups on open ground. The threats were real, physical, and immediate. A predator in the grass, a rival tribe at the water. Survival was the only currency that mattered. The brain that kept your lineage alive in those conditions was a specific, specialized instrument. It was fast. It was reactive. It was calibrated to one primary objective above all others. Do not die today. That brain scanned for danger constantly. It defaulted to the behavior of the group when uncertain. It treated loss as a catastrophic signal and responded to it with the kind of urgency you'd reserve for a physical attack. It was, for its original environment, a masterpiece of engineering. Then someone invented the stock market. And your 200,000-year-old survival brain walked straight into a hall of mirrors with no map, no guide, and complete confidence that its instincts would serve it well. They won't. They never have. They are the mechanism by which your money moves from your account to someone else's. Let's start with the most expensive instinct you carry. The herd instinct. The one that makes you check what everyone else is doing before you decide what you're doing. In the jungle, this was intelligent. If the entire group suddenly ran in one direction, you ran with them. You didn't stop to investigate. Stopping to investigate got you eaten. The group's movement was information. Fast, reliable, actionable information. In the market, this wiring is a financial suicide mission. Here is the pattern, and it runs identically in every cycle without exception. An asset starts rising. The early money, the quiet money, the patient money has already been positioned for months. The asset rises further. A few people talk about it. More people notice. The narrative builds. Media coverage arrives. Your cousin mentions it at dinner. Your co-worker sends a message in the group chat. Your social feed fills with testimonials from people showing gains. And your brain, your ancient, well-intentioned, catastrophically mismatched brain, registers all of this as signal, as validation, as evidence that this is safe, this is real, this is the opportunity that explains why all those other opportunities didn't work out. So you buy, late, into a narrative that was packaged and distributed specifically to reach you at this moment. You aren't joining a party. You are paying the bill after everyone else already left. The herd is always loudest at the top. That's not a coincidence. That's the mechanism. By the time the noise reaches you, the people who created the noise are already building their exit. Your enthusiasm is their liquidity. Your FOMO is their profit. Are you investing? Or are you just the last person to hear a rumor and calling it research? Pause. Think about the last hot tip you followed. You felt safe because everyone was doing it, right? That wasn't safety. That was the scent of the slaughterhouse, and you walked in smiling because the line was long. Now let's talk about the pain glitch. Psychologists who understand your brain better than your advisor does have proved something that should have changed everything about how we teach money management. It didn't, because it's bad for business to tell people this. Here it is. Losing $100 feels approximately twice as bad as winning $100 feels good. Read that again, slowly. The pain of a loss is twice the intensity of the pleasure of an equivalent gain. Your nervous system is not neutral about money. It is wired, deeply and structurally, to treat loss as an emergency, as a threat, as something that demands an immediate emotional response. On the savanna, this made sense. A loss of resources could mean death. The brain that treated resource loss as an urgent crisis survived better than the brain that shrugged it off. In a volatile market, this wiring turns you into your own worst enemy. Here's exactly what it does. You hold the losing position because selling makes the loss real, permanent, irreversible. As long as the position is still open, the brain maintains a story, that it's temporary, that it will recover, that the thesis is still intact. The brain doesn't construct this story because the evidence supports it. It constructs this story because the alternative, admitting the loss, closing the position, accepting the pain, activates the same neurological alarm systems as a physical threat. So you hold, and average down into a falling asset while telling yourself you're being strategic. While the ship takes on water, you're standing on the deck explaining to anyone who'll listen why it's actually going to float. Meanwhile, you're winners. Those you sell too early. Because a gain already feels good, and the fear of watching that gain disappear. Loss aversion again, always loss aversion, overrides every rational argument for letting it compound. You take 30% and feel clever. You watch it go to 300% from the sidelines and feel sick. Cut your winners. Marry your losers. Repeat until broke. That's not a strategy. That's your biology operating without supervision. Are you managing a portfolio, or are you just babysitting your own ego? Every day you hold a dead asset, hoping for a miracle. You are paying a hope tax to the people who actually have a plan. And then there's the ego trap, the one that turns a bad trade into a personal identity crisis. You find something you believe in, an asset, a thesis, an opportunity. You do some research, or what feels like research. You get excited. And then, because humans are social animals who process confidence through the reactions of other people, you tell someone, maybe a friend, maybe a group chat, maybe you post about it publicly. And in that moment, something shifts. You are no longer evaluating a financial position. You are defending a public statement. The trade has become attached to your identity, to your reputation, to the version of yourself that knows things, sees things, makes good calls. Now new information arrives. Information that contradicts the thesis. A number that doesn't fit. A development that changes the picture. And your brain, your socially calibrated, reputation-protecting, 200,000-year-old brain, filters it, discounts it, constructs counter-arguments that aren't really counter-arguments, just defenses dressed up in the language of analysis. Being wrong in private is uncomfortable. Being wrong publicly, on a position you've staked your credibility on, feels like a social attack. The brain responds accordingly. So you don't update, you double down. You add to a position that the numbers have already judged, because the judgment you can't accept is the one coming from the people who watched you call it. Your ego is writing checks your portfolio can't cover, and it will keep writing them until the account is empty, or the embarrassment finally exceeds the stubbornness. The market doesn't know your name. It doesn't care what you told your friends. It will go where the numbers point it, regardless of your reputation. The only person damaged by your refusal to admit you were wrong is you. So what's the actual solution? Not motivation, not discipline in the abstract, not the advice to be rational that assumes rationality is available on demand when your nervous system is screaming at maximum volume. The solution is a cage. You don't need to be a genius. You need to be a robot. A robot doesn't hope. A robot doesn't wait for a sign. A robot executes the code. If you can't follow a simple cell rule, you're not an architect. You're just liquidity with a pulse. Not intelligence. Not superior analysis. Not the ability to outthink the market or outmaneuver the professionals who do this full-time with resources you don't have. A cage. A system of pre-committed rules written when you are calm, designed to operate when you are not. Rules that remove the decision from the moment of maximum emotional pressure and replace it with a mechanism that fires automatically, regardless of what your gut is screaming. The rule says, sell at 15% down. You sell. Not because it feels right, because the rule exists for exactly this moment. When selling feels most wrong, when your brain is producing the most sophisticated reasons to hold, when the loss aversion and the commitment bias and the social proof are all running simultaneously at full intensity. The rule doesn't care how you feel. It doesn't care what you told your friends. It doesn't care that selling means admitting the thesis was wrong. The rule was written by the version of you that wasn't afraid. That version is smarter than the version currently watching the position bleed. The cage is not a constraint on your freedom. It is the only structure that gives you a chance in a game designed to exploit your freedom to make catastrophic decisions under pressure. This is what the capital architects understand. The people in the upper rooms, the ones who wait. They are not smarter than you in the way you think they are smarter than you. They don't have better information, necessarily. They don't predict the market with accuracy that you lack. They don't see the future. What they have is structure, rules, patience, and a profound clinical understanding of exactly what you will do under pressure. They know the herd instinct will fire at the top. They know loss aversion will lock you in on the way down. They know commitment bias will keep you frozen while the position deteriorates. They know that when the pressure reaches maximum intensity, the retail investor, the person running ancient survival software without a cage to contain it, will break. They wait for the break. They are capitalized for the break. They have been positioning quietly, without noise, without social proof, without the need for your validation, for months before you hear anything about it. Your panic is their opportunity. They aren't looking at charts. They are looking at the VIX, the fear index. They are measuring exactly when your nervous system will snap. They don't want your money. They want your surrender. Because surrender is where the biggest discounts are found. Your breaking point is their entry point. Your loss is not absorbed by the market in some abstract sense. It is transferred, specifically and efficiently, to the account of someone who understood the psychology of the moment better than you did. You are not losing to the market. You are losing to the version of yourself that your brain becomes under pressure. The market is just the arena where it happens. Here's where we land. The 99% don't fail to build generational wealth because they don't work hard enough, or because the system is rigged against them, or because they didn't get the right information. Most of them work hard. Most of them had access to enough information. Most of them were trying. They fail because they walked into a hall of mirrors with a brain built for the jungle and trusted their reflections. The reflection that said, everyone's buying, so it's safe. The reflection that said, it's down, but it'll recover, so hold. The reflection that said, I told people about this, so I can't be wrong. Every reflection was distorted. Every instinct was a liability. Every feeling of certainty was the system working exactly as designed, finding the precise frequency at which your particular combination of cognitive wiring would override your judgment. Build the cage. Name the bias. Pre-commit the rule. And the next time your gut tells you it's certain, Ask yourself whether you're seeing clearly or whether you're looking at a mirror. One last thing before you go. Think back, not to a general period of bad decisions, to the specific moment, the exact afternoon or morning or late night when you felt the certainty, the clean, warm, completely convincing certainty that you knew what was going to happen next. The moment, right before the gut feeling, cost you real money. What was the exact moment you realized your gut feeling cost you thousands of dollars? Be honest. Not with me, with yourself. Because that moment is the data point. That moment is the gap between where you are and where you want to be. And until you can look at it clearly, without ego, without the story, without the protective narrative about bad luck and bad timing, you will keep standing in the hall of mirrors, mistaking your own reflection for a window. Drop it in the comments. The real version. The 1% doesn't predict the market. They predict you, and so far they've been right every time. Stop being the meal. Build the cage. My name is Damon. I'll see you in the upper rooms.